Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for joining us for today's episode of Recruit Military Live, where we will be discussing strength in unity and how connecting with other veteran professionals can help you tap into networks and resources that empowers you to build fulfilling careers. As always, my name is Gabby Petticrew, and I am joined today by my amazing co-host, Raul Torres. How's it going your way, Raul?
Hey, Gabby, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Fantastic. Not a drop of snow near where I am, but I know that's very different for quite a few people throughout the country, even in the most unthinkable areas.
Yeah, same here. I avoided it. Glad I did. It skipped us. We were just talking about it. It skipped us here near Dallas and made its way to Houston. So I'm just glad it skipped us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be staying in my nice and toasty desert of the Arizona area. So I'll be staying put, but I am excited for our live today and for our guest. He is the co-founder and vice president of Vetlanta and the managing director of Boots to Loafers, LLC. Having served and retired in the U.S. Army as a lieutenant colonel, he has held a multitude of roles to include serving as finance executive at the Coca-Cola Company, a former member of the board of directors of the USO of Georgia, and was the chair for their audit committee as well as the executive committee. He's a 2017 Marvin Myers Leadership Award recipient from the Georgia Veterans Day Association and a 2020 inductee to the Georgia Military Veteran Hall of Fame. He is also a published author of 2 books. The second book, just having hit the shelves yesterday, also available on ebook as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited. Please join us in giving a warm welcome to John Phillips. Good morning, John.
Hey, John,
Hey,
good morning.
everyone. Hope everyone is staying warm here in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains north of Atlanta. It was 13 degrees when we got up this morning.
No,
Insane.
no,
thanks.
no. No, thank you. I just looked right now and I'm shocked at how cold. It's 47 where I am, and that's unthinkable to me, which explains why I'm cheap and I don't cut the heat on in my house. And I finally did today. I was like, it is unbearably cold this morning. So that makes sense. Holy cannolis. Well, thank you for joining us, John. We greatly appreciate you making the time to spread some very valuable information. And if you could, for our audience, could you just give us a little bit about a background on yourself and then what you currently do now?
So I'm, as you said, I'm a retired Army officer. I'm actually what you call a Mustang. So, I entered the Army as an E1 many moons ago and retired as a lieutenant colonel. So I've been enlisted, I've been an NCO, I've been an officer, all in the field artillery, which I love being our field artilleryman. I was also, my secondary, I was a comptroller. So I was a money guy. I majored in finance in college. I was kind of the weirdo because everybody else was like English or history majors or something. And they're like, what are you doing, man? That stuff's hard. I'm like, yeah, but there is life after 20. So my life after 20, I literally retired from the Army on a Friday. And on Monday, walked into the Coca-Cola Company in a suit and worked there for almost 18 years and really enjoyed it. I was kind of an anomaly because the company really never hired a lot of veterans. But over the course of my career there, I changed that. It really was what fell on me, and what I found out being there is I needed to educate the senior leaders of that company on the value of hiring veterans and what they were going to get right into the company day one. People that have the leadership skills, the managerial skills, the drive, the personal dedication to get the job done. And they didn't have to worry about all of that. It was a package deal, and they would come in the door ready to go. They didn't know that. So here I am, a guy in finance, but I'm working with the HR people, the talent acquisition people, and really educating them on the value of hiring a veteran. I actually had to explain to them the different levels of discharges. They had no idea, none. So what is a DD 214? What am I looking for? By the time I left the company, I actually started the Veterans Business Resource Group at the Coca-Cola company. I started their annual Veterans Day program that I managed personally for 17 years. Started as a 1-hour program. By the time I left the company, it was a full week of activity with the CEO of the company completely engaged, as well as key customers of the company that also help veterans. They were engaged and the employees loved it. I'll give you one example of how impactful it was. One year, I coordinated with the FAA. We shut down the airspace over Atlanta, which had never been done. And I had a guy fly in and he parachuted at 4,000 feet into the Coca-Cola company complex with a huge American flag. And it was incredible. The FAA contacted me and they said, we need to come to the company. We want to witness this. We've never seen this before. And so doing things like that and getting employee engagement reinforces bringing veterans in. And we were also at the height of the war. So it was really educating those that were at the company because there were not a lot of people there that had served in the military. So I was educating them as part of the process. I would say your audience, those out there that are working in companies, I don't care what size they are, take that on as your personal challenges to educate the leadership of your company, the value of bringing veterans on board, the value of having that close relationship with the military. I reminded the Coca-Cola company it got them to be into over 200 countries because of what happened in 1941 with a relationship between General Eisenhower and the CEO at the time. They had a true friendship, and General Eisenhower said, I want to bring Coca-Cola to my soldiers that are on the battlefield. Done. And that's how we got over 200 countries worldwide.
That's a morale boost.
Short history of Coca-Cola. So
now, does anyone have some Jacks to mix with that?
The other side of that is what I also found out at Coca-Cola is TAP did not prepare me. The transition assistance program at the time did not prepare me to go to a Fortune 500 company like the Coca-Cola company. It's like working in a major headquarters, like, at the high levels of the Pentagon and things like that. But it's still different. And that's what really drove me. I started taking notes and things like that. The notes turned into a notebook. And that's when I decided I was going to write my first book, Boots to Loafers, Finding Your New True North, to really lay out what are those things that they didn't tell me in TAP that I really need to know. When they slide over an offer letter to you after you've gone through the interview process, which is let alone a significant emotional event going through interviews. You never do that in the military.
Nope.
But sliding an offer letter over to you, then you read it, and you're supposed to understand what you're reading. And I can tell you, the higher level that you come into a company, those offer letters can be pretty complex because there's all these benefits and these perks that you get, and you need to know what you're reading. So I address things like that in the book. The second book, which came out yesterday, I took the first book, I took some things out, and I put some new things in because the whole environment inside corporations have changed over the last 10 years, and they continue to evolve, and they continue to change. So I really wanted to call those out. The other thing I added in there was the wonderful world of filing your veterans disability claims through the VA. And I mean, I could spend an hour talking about that, but we won't. But it's really, I really wanted to address some high level, low hanging fruit for those that are going to be filing their claims, how to do it, who to talk to, the right questions to ask, things like that, and taking control of the process and not letting that third-party doctor from the VA that you're going to have to go see for them to do their C&P exam, take control of that because it's your meeting. Oh, by the way, those doctors get anywhere between $700 and $1,000 per veteran that they see. So they want you in and they want you out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So do your homework. So that led to the second book and really updating that and really kind of helping. It's my way of paying it forward to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines to help them with all of those things that were never addressed in TAP, but I can help them out.
No, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, while you've been busy being a published author, you've also been the co-founder and VP of Vetlanta. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what the mission is of Vetlanta?
Sure. So we just celebrated our 11th birthday. So Vetlanta, we are a veterans club. I think on at least 3 occasions, people have tried to convince us to change from being a club to a nonprofit. And one group actually hired McKinsey Consulting to work with us to really lay out and do a SWOT analysis on converting over to being a nonprofit. And these are some folks that had some big money, really big money, and were ready to bankroll us to get into being a nonprofit. We went through the study, we talked, and at the end of the day, we said, no, we kind of like being a club. Because believe it or not, being a club, we are chartered to accept no money from anybody. So we don't have 2 pennies to rub together. So believe it or not, that one thing has allowed us access to basically any Fortune 500 company headquartered here in Atlanta, which there are dozens of them, dozens. We've had 41 summits over the last 11 years. And going forward, we have all of our summits sponsored or hosted are already booked into 2026. So our next summit is the 11th of February at Emory University. Emory University has a master's in business for veterans, and there's only 2 of such master's programs in the United States. One's at Emory. They're in their first year. The other one is at the University of Southern California in LA. And they work together to develop this one here in Emory. And they are actively recruiting right now for their next class, which will start this coming summer. So it's about a 1-year program, but it's basically an MBA. But what you do is you get a heavy dose of leadership, and you also get exposure to some of the key military and business leaders in the industry that come to Emory to speak with the group. And to me, the trump card in the whole thing is you are a veteran cohort organization. So you stay together as a class, anywhere between 30 to 40 students. You're all veterans, and the professors come to you. You sit in a class, they come to you. So you all automatically, and you guys can relate to this, you automatically have something in common with your classmates. You've been there, done that. So you've already got that camaraderie where you're working together. And let me tell you, this course it's not simple. There's a lot of finance and accounting. There's business law. There's statistics. It's an MBA. That's what you get. What you get is you get that leadership piece to it. And then the other part of it is both of my books are part of the class as well. And I come in and I teach 3 classes on transition and really deep dive into some of those areas that I have outlined in the book. And it's really great to do that, to get re-engaged and to really pay it forward and help those that are going forward. But so Vetlanta, we have our summit with them. And then our second quarter summit this year will be at UPS headquarters. Don't have a theme on that yet, but we're working on it. So every quarter we do that, and it's we have a lot of fun with it. The big piece of it, networking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are nonstop. We network on steroids, and we just get out there and get after it. The thing that I've noticed at these summits is you never know who you're going to meet. So you better have your 2-minute drill or your elevator pitch better be ready to go, because if it is not, guess what? You ain't getting the job.
No, that's exactly it.
Yeah, and the flip side of that is I have seen dozens of times where people have been hired right on the floor. Some employer will come up and go, "Hey, John, I'm really looking for somebody that can do this, that, or the other." And I said, "Come with me, and I'll take these. You know, they're CEOs or HR people. Come with me, and I will connect them directly with a veteran. You two need to meet each other. You two need to talk." I've seen them take them outside, interview them, boom, hired on the spot. Seen it happen too many times. So that's one of the big things I love about Vetlanta is really getting those veterans connected and networking and getting the veterans to come out of their shell and talk about themselves a little bit, which when you're in uniform, you never do that. You just don't do it. You got to get them past all of that. So it's really a wonderful experience. I hope you all could to come to one of our summits and see how we make things happen. I love doing it.
Just for the resources alone, I mean, that's why we have you on today. You seem like you have the answer to, well, a lot of questions, but to many resources that a lot of individuals, especially within the military community, may not even be aware of. And you said something earlier to which I feel like a lot of people can relate to, which is don't solely rely on TAP programs, right? While, TAP programs these days try to do their very best to inform the military community and assist, give them as many resources as they can when it comes to the transition process. There's just so many out there that even there's new ones being made, every other day, I'm sure. So I feel like having you on and being able to talk about the resources that maybe aren't spoken about during these transition, classes. And one of them that you did mention are VSOs. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience with the VSOs and why veterans should be taking advantage of those and what those are?
So I would say, so one of the things we do in Vetlanta is we vet VSOs. Because I've heard numbers anywhere from 40 to 45,000 nonprofits that are out there that say they're here to help veterans. They're here to get in your back pocket is what they're, most of them. I'd say 80% of them. They want to get in your back pocket. So you do, like I've said before, do your homework on who you're talking to. Like one of the big things going on right now are the sharks that are after people to have them sign up to pay something like 5 times whatever the difference is between what their VA rating is. If they can get them to 100% and you commit that you're going to pay 5 times to those people, you need to do your home. You shouldn't be paying anybody to do that stuff, but you can go to VSOs. You can go to the big 3, DAV, American Legion, VFW. They all have veteran service certified veteran service officers, and their job is to help you fill out your disability paperwork. They know what form to use, which, believe it or not, a lot of people, they get all mixed up on what VA form to use and all. Guess what happens then? You submit it. Number one, you don't ever hear anything back. It's like fire and forget. It's gone. And then you get an email like 3 months later and it says, "Oh, you sent the wrong form. You got to start over." Really? So it just drives me nuts. So really using those VSOs to help you with your disability claims, any types of dealings with the VA. So those are just the big 3. There are other nonprofits out there that can help you. You want a resume done, for example. Hire Heroes USA, right here in Alpharetta, Georgia. You're a veteran. It costs nothing. It's free. And I will tell you, they have some of the best resumes in the market. Free, right here, sign up. Not only will they do your resume, they have a job bank where you can you can look at what jobs are available because they have relationships with multiple companies. So there's a lot of those. Another organization here in Atlanta, the Warrior Alliance, it's huge. They have a lot of interaction with the community. They help with claims. They help with a lot of variety of things to do. Vetlanta has relationships with all of these organizations in the Atlanta area. If you come to one of our summits, there will be anywhere between 30 and 50 nonprofits that are vetted, that will have tables there peddling their goods on what they do, goods and services, everything from canine to healthcare, education, you name it, they got it. It comes in all kind of varieties. It's here. The key is these folks have been vetted. So having those VSOs out there, and I don't think TAP talks a lot about, they may talk about the big three a little bit, but all the other local, wherever you're at in the United States, locally, I'll guarantee there's VSOs there, nonprofits that are there to help you out. You want me to go through some more?
I was going to mention, John, that's all. Well, first, I want to hear from the people, the audience listening. If you're from the Atlanta area and you've ever used, or in general, if you're a veteran or part of the military community, if you have used any of these services, I want to hear it. Put it down in the comments below, because I personally have used DAV. We work very closely with them. They're our sponsor for our events. So when I go in person and see one of the reps there right alongside with me, I thank them all the time, because I was a knucklehead and waited almost up to a year before putting my claim in, before the red tape then goes into play. So DAV turned everything around for me and immediately put my stuff in. But I do want to hear from the people, hey, whoever's used Vetlanta, they're doing the homework for you. Always do your own research, but man, it sounds like if you make it to one of these summits, everyone's already vetted, so you know who you're talking to is a legit organization. So that's pretty cool.
So I would tell you DAV, for example. DAV, for those that are in Georgia, that are then in the Atlanta area that are listening and watching this, in Woodstock, Georgia, at the unemployment office, every Wednesday, DAV is there. And you can, if you make an appointment, you can go and you can sit down with a veteran service officer and you can do all of your paperwork. And they can help coach you and teach you what you need to do. They'll actually help you fill out the paperwork, and then you got to go out and get it submitted into the system. But these people do this day in and day out. But every Wednesday, they're at the unemployment office there in Woodstock, where Kennesaw State University is, and make an appointment, go see them. It costs this much, nothing. It costs nothing.
Exactly.
You don't have to belong to the TV.
They're there for you to assist and support the military community, just like Brandon mentioned over here on LinkedIn. Not being from the Atlanta area, but we'll say the DAV in California was amazing for his BDD claim. His rep took out all the stress of doing the claim for him. And that's exactly what it is. It is a very stressful process. Unlike, it's so stressful. I was so anxious about it. I started my claim 3 months before I got out of the military. I was like, I'm not waiting till even 30 days prior till getting out. We're starting this now as early as I can, because of how stressful it is. And I wanted to ensure that I still was able to go and get all my questions answered. And I felt more as a priority if I handled that while I was still active, specifically for these reasons. And John, I know you mentioned to us also another resource that a lot of individuals may not be taking advantage of are your state veteran organizations within, local to you as well. And a lot of individuals don't know that they are also they have representatives who are also probably their main duty is to assist with things such as disability claims as well.
Yeah. So I know they don't talk about this in TAP, but so each state has a veterans commissioner. Some of them call them commissioner, some of them call them secretary, it doesn't matter. But there is a top person inside your state that is your top veteran representative that is appointed by the governor. So the one we have here in Georgia, she's a retired Air Force colonel, personal friend of mine, absolutely wonderful. And she has a complete staff underneath her. So in Georgia, we have over 50 counties. Almost most of all these counties have veteran service officers in those counties, and their job is to help you fill out your paperwork for your disability claims. Mm-hmm. On top of that, the Georgia State Veteran Services benefits are actually the appeals is co-located with the VA, federal VA benefits in downtown Atlanta. They're co-located right there together. So your claim is submitted, you get denied, go see the state representative. They know how the system works. Mm-hmm. They know the right language to put in these claims, and they can help you resubmit your disability claim. They don't talk about any of this stuff in TAP. So another free service for you, free mm-hmm. service. So here in Georgia, I can tell you, I've worked with them to do, I think, was it 2 years ago? I did like 7, when the PAC Act was signed into law. Mm-hmm. I did 7 PAC Act sign-up sessions around the Atlanta area, working with the VBA, as well as the Georgia Veteran Service side to get veterans signed up. And guess who showed up? Most of them were Vietnam veterans because they had been denied for decades. And it's awesome. They all showed, and let me tell you something, they had stacks of paperwork.
Yeah, I can only imagine
your Georgia or your are best kept secret around.
Yeah, we even have a listener as well, Paul, off of LinkedIn as well. It's great to hear you all talking about this and encouraging fellow veterans to get help. When I got out, I filed on my own and failed because I was doing it all wrong. I eventually got help from the Texas Veterans Commission. I mean, this is a success story right here. Someone, it can be a very intimidating process. There's so many steps to this process, so much hurry up and waiting as well. To where if you did file something incorrectly, like you mentioned, you may not hear about it for months at a time. So having an expert, having someone who knows the ins and outs of the process, and especially whose service is free to that veteran, yes, please go out there and utilize them. Like that's what they're there for as well. And not only them, but there's even more resources, John, that you let Raul, but wait, there's more than you put Raul and I in on. I know there's one that I'm even very highly interested in. Something that you mentioned that I haven't even thought about is veteran trade shows. There's, one, you mentioned the MIC, the Military Influencer Conference that's going to be held. That's held every year. And that in itself seems like something like a gold mine for veterans, even just for networking alone, let alone looking for future career opportunities.
Yeah, so the Military Influencer Conference, from what I understand, previously was in San Antonio, Texas. And in 2024, they moved to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, it's the hotel that is literally right next door to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Mm. It's quite a place. It is smack downtown Atlanta too. So it's about a 3-day conference. I went last year. Hundreds of people there. The list of speakers and subject matter experts was pretty impressive. The number of people they had there. In talking with the folks that do that show, they're not going back to San Antonio. They said, we're staying right here in Atlanta. The city treated them right. They got a good deal on their facility. And so they're coming back again in November. I believe it's going to be November of this year. So I would encourage anybody out there.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want to be around the movers and shakers and the Are we there? It did the circle thing.
We got you. We got you back.
Yeah, we're here.
So yeah, so Nick, and then of course, I said,
We is lagging, John. Oh,
We may be lagging just a bit,
yeah.
but no, I would, he, after he had spoke to us about that, that's absolutely something that would be a gold mine to anyone within the area or is able to travel to a conference where there's literally hundreds of military influencers who know the ins and out of the veteran space, but also who have networked with other, Fortune 500 companies, things of that nature. And I'm planning now to see if I can find my way out down to that area. And like, I need a sitter for a couple of days, Mom.
Yeah. Well, and then
Yeah.
I mentioned also the quarterly summits for Vetlanta. Each of our summits are themed. So the one we're having in a few weeks is education. And then like I said, the UPS summit, we don't have a theme for it yet, but it'll be themed, and then we'll have the appropriate speakers and things like that. And then of course we'll have one in Q3 sometime, like August, September. And then our Q4, I can't remember who we even have as our host there. I will tell you, the largest summit we had was the year before COVID hit us. We had about 1,200 veterans, over 50 nonprofits, and we were at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Governor Kemp was our keynote speaker. I mean, it was surreal. It was, I mean, when you get the Atlanta Falcons and sponsor, it's a big deal.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was kind of incredible. So we'll get back to that. It's been difficult through these post-pandemic times because people are trying to get right back on board and get things ramped back up, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
I mean, that, alone, I feel like people hear about, the amount of employers or organizations that will be there, and they hear, oh, 50, like over 50, that's a lot. But then once you get there and you're in that room and you're like doing the actual networking, you're moving from, booth to booth and speaking to the amount of opportunities and doors that opens is astronomical. And I know we're getting close to wrapping up, but I want to make sure there's definitely one more resource that I would hope. It's been a while since I was in a TAP class, but it's one that I hope is, being brought up in these classes, and that's DOL vets. Can you give us some background on them and what all they offer?
So DOL vet, I mean, it's a federal, so DOL, Department of Labor vets, is specifically targeted to help veterans. The cool thing about it is it doesn't matter, unlike the VA, it doesn't matter what type of discharge that you've got out of the military. If you're one that got a bad conduct or a dishonorable, DOL vets will still help you. Where I'm not sure that's the case with the VA. So they are there, and they have regional offices. They have local offices. Like there's an office here in Atlanta. They also work. So there's the DOL vets cell, and then they also work with the state DOL, Department of Labor. So there's the federal side, and then there's the state side, and they work together. They have programs for spouses. They have programs. One of the things, protecting your rights as a veteran, protecting your rights as a reservist or National Guard person through your, so your company that you work for, when you get mobilized or deployed, that you come back and you got a job. I mean, that's a big deal. And I can tell you, I mean, for the 20 years that we were fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, at Coca-Cola, there was a constant churn of reservists and National Guards people that were getting federalized and mobilized and gone. And I really took it on that I needed to make sure that our HR people were online and understood what the federal law said to protect those jobs when they came home. Because they weren't coming home like in 90 days. They were coming home in a year.
Yeah, exactly. And, RecruitMilitary also, like, speaking of the UL vets, is, partnered with the UL vets with the ENPP program, which is the Employment Navigator and Partnership Program. So we're, fully aware of just how outstanding of a resource they are and how much assistance they can provide to the military community.
Yeah, and DOL vets.
So I think go ahead, Raul.
I was just going to mention, and they're at our events as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we see in multiple states firsthand DOL helping veterans, and again they're at our events, so I see it firsthand. So they're great.
So I think one of the key things here, the theme across the board, across all these things we talked about, free.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Free. You're not paying for this stuff. And I think folks need to understand that there are so many resources that are available to them, especially through some of these nonprofits that are really earmarked in their whole mission in life is to help veterans. But again, I can't overstress is do your homework and understand who you're dealing with. And then once you find that organization that is truly vetted and what they say, one of the things people joke about it, but my favorite phrase is deeds, not words. Old school talks cheap, but deeds, not words.
Talk the talk.
Don't sit talk.
And
Don't talk
the
to
walk.
me about everything you can do. You better get it done.
You got to get to step and walk the walk.
And speaking of old school, I know we've talked about so many veteran organizations. How about the legacy ones like the VFWs? Can you speak a little bit more about their importance and bringing resources and just support overall to veterans?
Yeah, so I'm a life member of VFW. I'm actually going through this. I'm a bronze level legacy, and I'm going to work my way up to the gold. I'm actually getting involved now with our local VFW in trying to push legislation through the Georgia legislation process when they come into session. Really to develop legislation to help benefit veterans that are in Georgia and make Georgia attractive for those transitioning out to come to Georgia. So I'm getting involved in that pretty heavily. I'm kind of a news political junkie. Back in my day, we used to joke around and say, you got to watch CNN because wherever Christian Amanpour is, we're going. Guarantee it, we're going. And it happened too many times, and it's like, so it's kind of carried over. And I watch the news and I see what's going on. But so VFW is great. American Legion, I just met with the American Legion National Commander last week who was in Georgia. We talked about a few things. I'm a life member, and then a life member also with DAV. I'm 100% disabled through VA. They helped me through the process. I'm a PAC Act guy through burn pits, things like that. But those three, the key is, and what I really want to try and drive to is getting, and I think they do it now, but those three entities, DAV, VFW, American Legion, have got to work together collectively to get legislation done at a federal level that can help us all. Because there is some silly stuff going on, but they really got to work together. I think they do it now. But I would say pick your local chapter, or like the chapter of VFW that I belong to is not even in where I live. It's across town. And I'm willing to go over there because they just, like I said, deeds, not words. They just don't talk about doing stuff. They get it done. So I would say, join. It's not like it used to be, the old smoky bar and you can get 25-cent drinks. I mean, you know,
Burn.
there could be.
Still may be a few of those floating around.
Oh, I imagine there's plenty. But I mean, get involved. I mean, I think there's one of those things that is embedded in us as veterans is you get involved, you try and make a difference. It's kind of embedded in us when we go through, basic or wherever your training you go through is we just don't walk by a piece of paper that's on the ground and not pick it up. We get involved. Get involved in your community. Make a difference. If nothing else, just help another veteran. Just help one more veteran and point them in the right direction. Because I'm telling, we got some folks out there that are hurting and they need the help. So take the time to help them out. And that's kind of the world I come from.
Absolutely.
One big brotherhood. And just when you leave the service, that does not mean that you're leaving that brother and sisterhood. We stay connected during and after that service. And speaking about staying connected, we definitely want to help celebrate in your second published book, which, officially released at least on, paperback and hit the shelves yesterday, the 21st. But how can our listeners get a hold of this to, deep dive more into this advice, into these tips for that transition to the civilian sector?
So it's available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes and Noble. There's an audio, or not an audio. There's a ebook. So if you got the ebook, the little books, Kindles, and all that, you've got that option, or you've got the old paper copy right here. And that's available out there too. So part of that master's program, they'll be using this book, and we'll do some deep dive in some areas, and really hearing back from the students on their experiences with some of these things and coming up with, hey, have you thought about, different ways of doing things based on your military experience as well as your experience in the private sector and things. So, but the book's out there. I've been trying to promote it a lot on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and we have the
Pushing
links
it out
also.
to those to help.
Yeah, and I mean that's
Cool.
information that's crucial to that transition process, and we have those links, and we'll be sure to drop those in the comments of this live as well. John, we greatly appreciate you coming on, and even you can see just by the engagement alone and how much our audience relates to these resources that you're speaking on. It's very useful and valuable knowledge. So we greatly appreciate you coming on and spreading that wealth of knowledge to the military community.
Appreciate the time, John.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.
It's a pleasure meeting you all. Stay in touch.
Absolutely.
And if you come to Mick, let me know, and I'll meet y'all down there.
Oh well, we'll definitely be staying in touch for that, because I'm trying to find a way out there. It's happening. So thank you so much again, John, and thank you everyone out there for joining us on today's episode of Recruit Military Live. Stay in touch, and we'll see you next time.